invertebrates don't have to be insects. Sometimes invertebrates are mollusks. In this case, we have some mussels and some snails. So snails are pretty cool, and they can survive in moving water. We got this one right here who's putting their body parts out. The interesting thing about snails is that they have a piece of armor that when they feel threatened, they can literally put their whole self inside of their shell. Unlike hermit crabs, they produce their own shell. They don't steal an empty shell and then decide to live in it. So they can unfurl from their shell and they can grasp onto a surface and then they can move forward that way. They also have antenna-like structure that help them to navigate so that they don't bump into things. Here's a snail that's already on a rock. It's not all the way out, but it is moving forward. Snails will generally move slowly, eating as they go and munching on the algae that is on the rock. They're really great decomposers. So in an ecosystem, you need producers that produce food, plants. You need consumers that eat stuff, whether they eat plants or they eat other animals. And then you have decomposers. Decomposers kind of bring everything back to soil so that the producers have enough nutrients to produce more food. Next, we have a freshwater mussel. Freshwater mussels are actually very interesting. Their interior is very purple. You can eat them. I wouldn't necessarily eat them. They're very grainy, but they are edible. Native Americans ate them all the time when they lived in the area. But they have a foot. Now the foot is this really bright whitish color, and it comes out of the shell, and that foot is going to bury into the sand or bury into some small rocks, and so that they can feed and then bring themselves back forward. But most people don't think that a mussel can move. They really can. Oftentimes you'll see them on dock posts, or you'll see them right on the shoreline, kind of sitting invertedly. Let's move to the tank for a moment, because you can see that this one is definitely inverted. The foot is probably down in the gravel, although we can't see it. Mussels filter a lot of water. Now, you may have heard, oh my goodness, mussels are bad. Some mussels are bad. For example, zebra mussels are kind of bad. Zebra mussels are a fraction of the size of these mussels. They're very, very tiny, but they multiply really quickly and unfortunately can even clog up intakes for water treatment plants. So the interior of a mussel shell, and this one was a really big one, you can see really nice coloration. Native Americans used this sharp edge for scraping. It made a great tool for scooping and eating, or even a small bowl. So very, very handy and easy to sharpen. Sharpening a mussel shell really just involved scraping it along the rock on either side. And they could get a shell like this sharp enough to even cut hair or shave. If you look at depictions of Native Americans that lived in this area, many of them did not have facial hair because they shaved it away. All right, so this is our mussel shell, and this is a very, very large one. Here is where it would connect to the other half, right? And this would be more skin-like, where it was connected to the other half of the shell. So here's one that's pretty whole right now, but you can see as you open it where the connections might be. This is where the actual animal would live, in that very shiny, almost iridescent location. So I hope you learned a little bit about snails and mussels today.